Lecture 6, Your Wealth Snowball. When you spend less and earn more, your personal profit will grow. As it grows, you'll create what I call a wealth snowball. Your wealth snowball is the mass of money that comes when your invested profits grow through the power of compounding. Compounding is the magic that occurs when your money earns interest, or investment returns, over a long period of time. You earn returns not only on the amount you've contributed, but also on your previous earnings. So, if you invest $100 at 10% interest, you'll have $110 after 1 year. But in the second year, you earn 10% interest on your original $100 contribution and on the $10 interest you earned in the first year. In year 2, you earn $11 in interest. Now you have $121. Then, in year 3, you earn 10% on that $121, and your original investment grows to $133, and so on. That's compounding. That's the wealth snowball in action. As this example demonstrates, the effects of compounding start small, but over time, they become enormous. Here's a quick story of compounding in real life. When he died in 1790, Benjamin Franklin left about $4,400 to two cities, Boston and Philadelphia. But his gift came with strings attached. The money had to be loaned to married couples at 5% interest. What's more, the cities couldn't access the funds until 1890, and they couldn't have full access until 1990. 200 years after he died, Franklin's $8,800 bequest had grown to more than $6.5 million between the two cities. True story. Now, you and I don't have 200 years for compounding to work its magic. We might have 20 or 30 years. If you're young, maybe you have 50 or 60 years. That's still time enough to build a sizable wealth snowball. But because our horizons are shorter, the amount you invest for the future is more important than the returns you earn on that money. Contributions and compounding are both important to building wealth, but contributions are more important. In this lesson, we'll explore the implications of compounding. We'll do so by walking through some major milestones on the road to financial freedom. Let's begin by looking at what to do if you're starting from square one, if you still have debt or you're behind on your bills. According to the Federal Reserve's annual report on the economic well-being of U.S. households, 17% of Americans don't have enough money to pay their monthly bills. Another 12% wouldn't be able to pay their bills if they experienced a $400 emergency. So, when you begin to produce a personal profit, your first step, before investing, before anything else, should be to get current on your existing bills and obligations. Use your surplus to catch up on your rent, cell phone, electricity, and so on. After you've caught up on anything past due, it's time to set aside a small emergency fund. You don't want to be one of those for whom $400 is enough to create a crisis. To be safe, though, you want to set aside more than $400. How much more? Well, that depends on you and your circumstances. I think it makes sense for most folks to start with an emergency fund roughly equivalent to 1 month of expenses. So, if you spend about $2,500 each month, your aim should be to start by socking away $2,500 in case of emergencies. Put this money into a savings account, but use a different bank than the one you use for day-to-day spending. My main bank accounts are held at a local credit union, but my emergency fund lives in an online high-yield savings account. If needed, I can access the money quickly, but because it's not mixed with my main bank accounts, I often forget that these funds exist, and I'm not tempted to spend the money for non-emergencies. Later, you'll increase the size of your emergency fund. But to start, simply set aside about 1 month of expenses. Your next step on the road to financial freedom is to eliminate high-interest debt. When I was deep in debt during the 1990s, I felt like I was drowning. On those rare occasions that I had extra money to pay down my credit cards, I applied it haphazardly. I paid a little here and I paid a little there. I didn't have a system or a plan. As a result, it never felt like I was making any progress. I was only treading water and never reaching the safety of shore. Then I discovered the debt snowball. The debt snowball, made popular by financial guru Dave Ramsey, is a method for rapidly repaying debt. Here's how it works. Let's say that you owe $20,000 on high-interest debt, such as credit cards and personal loans. Your minimum payments on these debts come to $500 per month. Each month, you're paying $500 to what you owe. Now, let's say you eliminate a debt, getting rid of one minimum payment that totals $100. Your minimum payments now are $400 per month. But with a debt snowball, you do not reduce how much you're paying toward debt. Although your minimum payments have dropped to $400 per month, you continue to pay $500. You apply that extra $100 over the minimum to the debt of your choice. Now let's assume you pay off a second debt, one that carries a $120 minimum payment. Your required minimum payments are now $280 per month. But again, you keep your actual debt payments at $500 per month, throwing that extra $220 at whichever debt you choose. You repeat this process until all of your debts have been eliminated. Although your monthly minimum drops each time you pay off an obligation, you never decrease the total amount that you're paying towards debt each month. When you tackle debt like this, things start slowly, but eventually pick up speed. It's like a snowball rolling downhill, gaining size and momentum. By the time you reach your final debt, you're making huge progress. Does it matter which debt you pay off first? Well, yes and no. From a pure mathematical perspective, it's smartest to work from your debt with the highest interest rate to your debt with the lowest interest rate. By getting rid of your high-interest obligations first, you'll pay less in the long run. That said, many people struggle when doing things this way. Let's say you have a $20,000 balance on a credit card that charges 20% interest. It can take years to pay this off, and it's easy to become frustrated, to lose sight of your goals. Because of this, Dave Ramsey recommends a different approach. I do too. For now, forget about the math. Forget interest rates. Instead, use your debt snowball to repay debts with low balances first. By prioritizing debts with small balances, you get some quick wins. Doing things this way, most people can knock out one or two debts in a matter of months. These quick wins provide a mental boost that fuels your motivation to continue the process. Every few months, you get the satisfaction of crossing another debt off your list. In my own life, I struggled for years to get out of debt until I learned Ramsey's method. His version of the debt snowball worked for me. As I repaid my low balance obligations first, I knew it wasn't mathematically ideal, but I didn't care, because at long last, I was actually doing something about my debt. An imperfect method that allows you to achieve your goals is better than a perfect method that doesn't. Ultimately, how you choose to order your debts isn't that important. What matters is that when you pay off one obligation, you keep your monthly payments constant. Doing so creates an ever-accelerating snowball of debt reduction. Now, to make your debt snowball even more powerful, you can add to your monthly payments as time goes by. Say you get a $200 monthly raise at work. Instead of spending that money, you could add it to your $500 debt payments. Now you're paying a total of $700 per month toward what you owe. In this way, your debt snowball becomes even more powerful. Here's the bottom line. The most important thing when paying off your debts is to pay off your debts. The order in which you do so is ultimately irrelevant. Ignore anyone who says there's only one right way to get out of debt. There's not. Do what works for you. If you're in debt and want some help structuring a debt snowball, you'll find some supplementary info, including links to calculators and spreadsheets at moneytoolbox.com. After you've completed your debt snowball, or if you never had debt to begin with, it's time to turn your attention to building a wealth snowball. When you start saving for financial independence and early retirement, progress will be slow. As time goes by, though, as you continue to contribute to your accounts each month, your wealth snowball will gain size and speed on its own, just like the debt snowball. Long-term investment returns will compound year after year until one day you reach the crossover point, that place at which you've accumulated enough cash to fund the rest of your life. The process of building a wealth snowball is different for everyone. About half of American workers have access to retirement plans through their employers, for instance, but others have to be wholly responsible for their financial futures. Some employers match worker contributions to retirement plans, but some don't. Most people can contribute to Roth retirement accounts. People with high incomes cannot, at least not directly, and so on. There are a lot of nuances to these decisions. Your specific circumstances might make some options more attractive than others, and we don't have time to cover every contingency. That said, what I'm about to describe is a sort of general-purpose roadmap that most anyone can use or adapt. Take what follows as general advice, but please do additional research to figure out what's best for you and your situation. Okay, enough with the caveats. Let's build some wealth. Before you begin investing for the future, it's best to increase your buffer against bad fortune. Once you've eliminated your high-interest debt, bolster your emergency fund. Experts differ on how much you should set aside, and to be honest, the exact number isn't crucial. What's important is that you do expand your emergency savings so that you have enough to cope with an extended crisis. The coronavirus pandemic of early 2020 is a prime example. People with substantial savings were able to weather the storm. Those without a large emergency fund quickly found themselves in trouble. Here's what I recommend. If your personal situation is stable and the economy seems sound, you should set aside at least 3 months of expenses in your emergency fund. So, if you spend about $2,500 each month, increase your emergency savings to $7,500. But if the national economy is struggling, or your own personal economy is unstable, save more. Set aside at least 6 months' worth of expenses, or a year if possible. With $2,500 of monthly spending, that would mean saving between $15,000 and $30,000. It's important to keep your emergency money somewhere safe, in an account with minimal risk of loss. Do not invest this money in the stock market. If the stock market crashes, it'll take your rainy day fund with it, just when you need the money most. At the same time, I don't recommend keeping the money at a big national bank. Accounts at big banks offer poor interest rates, and if you don't earn interest on your money, that money loses purchasing power to inflation over time. It's best to stash your cash in either a high-yield savings account or in certificates of deposit. High-yield savings accounts, which you can find through online banks or certain traditional brick-and-mortar banks, typically offer interest rates that are much higher than the national average. As I write this, for instance, the largest U.S. banks offer interest rates of 0.01% on their savings accounts, which is as close to zero as you can get without actually being zero. They've had these interest rates for a decade. High-yield savings accounts, on the other hand, have rates of up to 1.6% right now, almost 200 times greater than the big guys. Certificates of deposit, or CDs, generally have higher interest rates than savings accounts, but in exchange for this premium, you agree that you won't withdraw your money for a set period of time. With a 6-month CD, for instance, you agree to leave your deposit alone for 6 months. Again, big national banks have lousy CD rates, so be sure to shop around. After you've increased your emergency savings, it's time to start the fun part of the financial independence journey. You've paid off your past and provided for your present. Now you're ready to fund your future. In our next lesson, we'll dive deep into investing for early retirement, exploring a specific method that works well for most people. For now, let's just establish some general guidelines. And let's start with tax-advantaged retirement accounts, such as IRAs and 401ks. You'll definitely want to make the most of these. When you put money into a regular investment account, you use after-tax money. You earn the money through a job, pay taxes on it, then use it to buy stocks and bonds. Depending on your specific investments, you might pay taxes on dividends and capital gains throughout the years. Then, when you eventually sell the investments, you pay taxes on whatever gains you've enjoyed. If you're not careful, taxes can eat away at your nest egg. Tax-advantaged retirement accounts allow you to eliminate some of these taxes. Take IRAs, for instance. An IRA is an individual retirement arrangement, although they're more commonly called individual retirement accounts. Traditional IRAs were introduced in 1975. They allow Americans to make tax-deductible contributions to retirement savings and then enjoy tax-deferred growth. That is, the money you put into a traditional IRA is pre-tax money. And as your contributions grow inside the account, you don't pay taxes. But when you withdraw money from the account in the future, those funds are taxed at then current rates. Since 1997, Americans have had access to another type of retirement account, the Roth IRA. You contribute after-tax money to a Roth IRA, but you don't pay taxes as your balance grows, and you don't pay taxes when you withdraw the funds in the future. Another difference is that Roth IRAs have income limits. If you earn too much in a given year, you can't contribute to your Roth. Both types of IRAs have contribution limits. As I write this, your total annual combined contributions to IRA accounts cannot exceed $6,000. Now, it's important to understand that an IRA itself is not an investment. It's a place to hold your investments. A brand new IRA is like an empty bucket. It's up to you to fill that bucket with investments such as stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, which we'll examine in the next lesson. While you're responsible for setting up your own IRA, you may also have access to a 401k retirement account or something similar through your employer. 401ks come in two flavors, traditional or Roth, which operate similar to their IRA counterparts. Okay, with this basic info behind us, we can now look at a general purpose plan for building your wealth snowball. This is the order that I recommend you prioritize your retirement investing. Step 1. If you have access to a retirement program through your employer, whether that's a 401k, a 403b, the thrift savings plan, or something else, contribute at least enough to earn the employer match. Doing this is almost like being given free money. If your employer doesn't match contributions, start with Step 2. Step 2. If you qualify, if your income isn't too high, contribute as much as possible to a Roth IRA up to the legal maximum. If you earn too much for a Roth, max out a traditional IRA instead. Step 3. After you've taken full advantage of your IRAs, go back and max out your employer-sponsored retirement plan. As I'm delivering this lecture, the annual contribution limit on 401ks is $19,500. So this year, if you were to contribute the maximum possible to both your personal IRA and an employer-sponsored retirement plan, you would have set aside $25,500 for retirement. For some, this is going to seem like a lot of money. If that's you, don't sweat it. Maybe you can't save $25,500 this year or even next year, but you can make this a goal for your future. Focus on what you are able to save, even if that's only $50 per month. Remember, the wealth snowball starts small and it grows larger with time. Others, however, will want to set aside even more. If you are in the fortunate position where you're able to fully fund tax-advantaged retirement accounts and you still have money left over to invest, the next step is to turn your attention to personal priorities. At this point, there are three common options. The first is to continue investing for retirement through the use of regular, taxable brokerage accounts. You won't enjoy any tax advantages on the money you invest this way, but you will be building an even larger wealth snowball. A second smart option is to accelerate payments on the low-interest debt that you didn't include in your debt snowball. This could include student loans, vehicle loans, and eventually your mortgage. Now, whether or not you should pay off your mortgage is a matter of passionate debate. Some say yes, absolutely, you should get rid of your mortgage as soon as possible. They argue that doing so gives you a guaranteed, risk-free return that's equal to the interest rate on your loan. Plus, eliminating your housing payment provides peace of mind and improves your cash flow. Others argue that it's foolish to pay off your mortgage, especially if it carries a low interest rate. These people say that you can earn better returns by using your spare cash to invest. And in theory, they're right. If you have a 30-year mortgage at 3.8% interest, but you expect stocks to return 6.8% over the long term, you'd be giving up an average of 3% annually if you paid off your house. I don't believe there's a single right answer to this debate. This is one of those cases where you have two great options, so you can't lose with either choice. It's like arguing which dessert is better, apple pie or chocolate cake. I think they're both delicious, and I think that either option here, paying down your mortgage or using the money to invest, is excellent. There's a third option you can pursue after you've maxed out your tax-advantaged retirement savings. Now is a good time to set aside money for specific medium-term goals. Perhaps you want to help send your kids to college, for instance. Maybe you're saving for a down payment on a home, or you'd like to start a business or take a year off to travel. Now's the time to save for those personal goals. Here's a final note that might seem like heresy to some in the FIRE community. If your income is high enough, if you're able to set aside a large amount for the future and you still have money left over, I think it's fine to spend that cash however you want. Money is a tool to help you build the life you dream of. Most of this course is about using that money to secure your future. But there's nothing wrong with spending to make life better today if you can afford to do so without sacrificing tomorrow. If you've already maxed out your retirement accounts for the year and you have enough cash to buy a new car, then buy a new car if that's what will make you happy. But if buying a new car means that you won't be able to fully fund your Roth IRA, it's probably not the best idea. I'll be honest, when I talk with people about financial independence and early retirement, I'm often met with skepticism. FI seems like an impossible dream for most folks. There's no way I can save half what I earn, they say. I can't bike to work. There's no way I'm going to downsize my home. I'm not going to stop eating in restaurants. And I get it. Some people aren't ready to swallow the red pill and escape the matrix. It's just too big a leap from their current existence, especially if their current existence is comfortable. Comfort leads to complacency, and complacency is the enemy of progress. But I've learned that if I reframe things, financial freedom becomes more appealing. It seems more accessible. Instead of describing financial independence as a far-off destination only reachable after decades of work and sacrifice, if I present financial independence as an ongoing journey, a progression, all of this seems much more doable. To that end, I now talk about the path to financial freedom as comprising 7 stages, each step building on the ones before it. The first stage of financial freedom lacks any freedom at all. This is financial dependence. When you're financially dependent, you rely on others for financial support. We all start here. We're born dependent on our parents to fulfill our needs, financial and otherwise. As we enter adulthood, most of us break free of financial dependence and move on. But some people get stuck here. We still need our parents for support. Or we rely on credit cards to subsidize our lifestyles. Personally, I was mired in this first stage until I stopped racking up debt in my mid-30s. After you start earning more than you spend, after you're earning a personal profit, you break free of financial dependence and begin experiencing ever greater degrees of financial freedom. Stage 2 of this journey is solvency. Solvency is the ability to meet your financial commitments on your own. Your income is greater than your expenses, and you're no longer taking on debt. You might still owe money on existing debts, but you're not adding obligations to the list. Stage 3 is stability. You achieve financial stability once you've repaid your high-interest consumer debt, stashed away some emergency savings, and you continue to earn a personal profit. You might still have some so-called good debt, college loans, a mortgage, but you've eliminated other obligations and built a buffer of savings to protect you from unfortunate events. The fourth stage is what I call agency. At this level of financial independence, you have the freedom to work and live the way you want. You can't retire yet, but you've eliminated all debt, including your mortgage, and have enough banked that you could quit your job without worrying about the fallout. Some folks who reach this stage say they have screw you money, meaning they could tell their boss to take a hike without sweating the repercussions. So we've moved from dependency through solvency, stability, and agency. These 4 stages are essentially about surviving. In the final 3 stages of financial freedom, you move from surviving to thriving. Money is no longer a safety net, but a tool that lets you build the life you want for you and your family. Stage 5 is security. You have financial security when your investment income, your wealth snowball, could cover your basic needs. That is, you have enough saved and invested to fund a meager existence for the rest of your life. Even if you never worked again, you should be able to afford simple housing, basic food, essential clothing, and insurance. In the early retirement community, this stage is sometimes called lean fire, meaning you have enough to retire to a lean lifestyle. Stage 6 is independence. It's this stage that most people think of when they hear the phrase financial independence. Here, you've reached that crossover point where your investment income is sufficient to cover your current standard of living, both now and in the future. You can afford the basics, but you can afford some comforts too. You have enough. The final stage of financial freedom, stage 7, is abundance. You have enough and then some. Your passive income from all sources will not only fund your current lifestyle indefinitely, but it grants you the ability to do nearly anything you want in the future within reason. You can share your wealth with others, you can live in luxury, you can build a business empire. The world is your oyster. In the early retirement community, the abundance stage is usually referred to as fat fire. Obviously, these 7 stages are largely arbitrary divisions. They're meant to illustrate an idea that financial independence isn't any one thing. It's not a fixed destination, but a series of steps that lead to ever greater options. The more money you have, the more freedom you have, and the more risks you can take. As your financial independence increases, you chip away at that wall of worry. When it's time to make a decision, you no longer have to ask yourself, can I afford this? Instead, you begin to ask, which choice will make me happiest? Even if you have no desire to retire early, and many people don't, the ideas in this course can help you achieve the level of financial independence that's right for you. And if you do want to retire early, recognizing that this process is a gradual one, marked by a series of different milestones, can help you find focus when you become frustrated by slow progress. Because let's be clear, the journey to financial freedom is a long one. It takes time. You don't get rich overnight. You get rich slowly. It takes most people 10 or 20 years to grow their wealth snowballs until they have enough saved for early retirement. To achieve that growth, you must invest your profits. If you don't invest, your money actually loses value. In the next lesson, I'll share a quick overview of how to invest for early retirement.